Alrighty guys, welcome. Let's hop into the learning path. Week 9, here we come. So week 9, this project is going to take us to the rest of the end of the course. So you'll have this week until the end of week 11 to get it done. Nothing too crazy, but we're going to finish up with SASS here, and then I'm going to have you create a page using SASS, but an actual page that you're going to want to spend some time on and make it look as good as possible, because you're going to want this to be, a portfolio item. So it's going to be an advertisement page for an event. So it'd be something like, if you were to send out a flyer or something, this is what it would look like. It needs to have graphics, obviously, that are going to pop and make people want to look at it, right? If you want to have links to sign up or something like that to go to hold on, too much going on Steam here. Anyways, yeah, you want to have graphics, but yeah, think of this could be an event for like a concert, a seminar, conference, anything, some sort of event. But that's the point of the page, is to give people all the information about it, give them a way to sign up if they need to, but spend a good amount of time on this, make it look good. And you're going to be styling everything using SASS. Okay, so anyways, it can be real or fictional, doesn't matter to me. This is due at the end of week 11. So some of these we've talked about, others we haven't. So you need to use at least 3 mixins that pass and receive at least 3 arguments to an include statement. I may have worded that wrong. Yeah, I kind of did here. Let's see. Yeah, that took forever. So actually the mixins are the ones that receive at least 3 arguments from an include statement. Okay. Anyways, you need to have at least 3 mixins that we talked about. I think we talked about that last week or the week before, that receive 3 arguments from an include statement. And you'll see what we talked about here. We'll cover that. 4 different SASS functions. You'll have a list. So if you go here, these are all the lists of all the different SASS functions. So you can use any of these. Doesn't really matter to me what, but you need to use at least 4 of them. Excuse me. And I'll show you how to do them. And then you need to import at least 1 external SASS file. Show you how to do that. And then when you're done, I need you to compile. I'm going to need you to compile that SASS file into 4 different formats: nested, expanded, compact, and compressed. Okay, and you can either attach these to the post when you post your assignment here, or you can give me links to them. And we'll, again, go over all this. Okay. Anyways, all the graphics and stuff should be made by you. This is meant to be a portfolio piece. That's why I'm giving you 3 weeks to do it. Okay, so spend some time. And this is supposed to be a piece that you can show off to employers and say, hey, I know how to do SASS. It's a good thing to know as a web designer. All right, so let's take a look. So here's my HTML. Okay, nothing too crazy. Okay, it's on my desktop inside this folder, quarter from you know where, advanced CSS week 9. Okay, so I'm going to create my SASS file. So file save as. I'm just going to call it css.scss. Save it in the same spot as the HTML file. So advanced CSS week 9. Throw it right in here. And bring it over here. Now we got to bust open, like we did before, the command prompt, so we can tell it to watch. Now in Windows, like I said, you can start typing it and hit tab. It'll do it for you. So I can say change directory. I hit tab and then it found it for me. This is week 9, right? Nope. Oh yeah, we got to do advanced CSS and then week 9. Okay, and if you don't remember the commands, here they are again. I'm going to tell it to watch. Now, when we compile this into the different types, expanded and so forth, we're going to be using this. But we'll come back there once we get there. But for now, I just wanted to watch it. Okay, so let's do that. So we're going to say, now remember you got to get into the directory. So SASS -- watch css.scss. All right, and if we take a look, remember it makes the cache folder, it makes this map file, but it now created the CSS file that we want to use in our HTML. So we have it there. Okay, so make sure you have that as well. So I'm not going to do a whole lot in the HTML. I'm just going to throw in a bunch of divs, and then I'm going to show you all these different SASS concepts. All right, so the first div I have in here is container. And now let's talk about the first thing you need to do for the assignment. So mixins that receive arguments. Okay, if you've done any coding in JavaScript, you should know what an argument is, and parameters, and how to pass values back and forth. If not, you're about to learn. So I can come in here. I'm going to create a mixin, and I'm going to call it container div. Because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to set up inside of this mixin and this include, I'm going to set up all the things that I would want to create to have this be centered and to have it be the right width and things like that. So I'm going to move this over so we can pay attention mainly to the CSS. All right, so I'm going to set up these arguments. The first argument is the variable width. Okay, the next one is height. Next one I'm going to do is border. Next one is margin. Next one is center. Now, if you're thinking right now, none of these have been declared. Like none of these have values. Well, you would be correct. Okay. So what I'm doing here is I'm setting up a bunch of variables that don't have any values passed to them yet, and that's what we're going to do later. So, okay, so now I'm going to define what I want these to be, what I want this mixin to be. So inside this mixin, I want the width to be equal to the variable width. Okay, I want the height to be equal to the variable height. Okay, now these refer to these, right? So the variable width is referring to this one here. And what we're going to do is write some stuff down here that's going to pass values to these variables. So when I use them here, it'll actually make sense and it'll actually work. So the margin is going to be equal to, we'll just go over here, margin and center. And the border is going to be border. Okay, now of course this isn't going to do anything yet because I have to come down here and apply these styles to container. Okay, the class of container here, which is right here. So what I want to do is I'm just going to apply this mixin basically to this div container. That's really all I'm going to do there. And if you remember from the other video, we use include to do that. So we're going to include container div because that's what we called the mixin right here. So we're including this predefined mixin, which is right here. We're applying that predefined mixin into the class of container. But the problem is, okay, we're trying to apply a width of width. We're trying to apply a height of height. Well, none of this has been defined, so I can pass variables, and that's what I'm going to do here. So the way it works is this first variable is waiting, the second variable, third, and fourth, they all just are waiting for values. So the first one I can pass is 800 pixels, and that's going to get passed, this argument's going to get passed over here to width, and width will receive it, and so now width will be equal to 800 pixels. Next one, 1000 pixels, that'll be the height. The border is going to be solid. Margin is going to be 0. and center is going to be auto. Okay, so 800 gets passed to width, so width will be 800. Okay, 1000 gets passed to height, so height's going to be 1000. Solid gets passed to border, so the border is going to be solid. 0 gets passed to margin, so margin is going to be 0. And then auto is going to get passed to center, so it's margin 0 auto. So, of course, the question is, why do I care? Why would I ever do this? Well, if you have different container divs that are going to have different values, I could set up another one that uses this mixin, right? And then just pass in different values and so forth. But again, this is just kind of giving more programming functions to CSS. Okay, so I can save that. Let's check over here. Looks like it detected it, which is good. Okay, so now we can come over here and I'll run the HTML and see what we get. There we go. So 800 wide, has the solid border, margin 0 auto, centers it, and it's 1000 tall. Okay, so that's what I'm talking about passing these arguments. You're going to have 3 mixins. Okay, so create 3 different mixins, and you need to pass in, I think I said at least 3 values. Yeah, 3 mixins, the 3 arguments. Okay, so that's how you do that. You just include the mixin, pass in some values that will get taken by these, and then use them inside the mixin. Okay. Let me show you another one. I'm going to create a div inside of this one. And let's go div. I'll give it class equals box. Not being too creative here. And we'll just kind of do another one here. So just to kind of review. So mixin, I'll call it inside box. Because there are different ways you can do this. So I can pass the values from here, or if I want to, I can just define them here. So I could say, all right, width is going to be, 1 pixel. Style, dotted. So what I'm doing right now is this inside box, I'm defining the border properties. So the width of the border, the style of the border, and so forth. Okay, and then color, I want to be blue. Okay. Now, because border, if I go border slash, there's all kinds of them. There's border bottom, border color, border image, border left, border radius. I mean, there's all of these different things that a border could be. So this is how you use a mixin with a property like border, where you can define all kinds of different things. So I can say border here. Now you can see that I'm nesting it here. So I'm saying, okay, I'm going to be messing with border. Okay, and I'm going to be messing with the border dash width. And the width is going to be whatever width is defined as, which right up here, it's 1 pixel. The border dash color is going to be color or blue. Okay, and the border dash style is going to be whatever style is, if I can type, which is dotted. Okay, so now we just need to apply this mixin to wherever we're doing this, right? Which is going to be inside this class of box. So let's do that here. So box, we use the add include, right? It's going to be inside box. And we don't have to give any parameters, arguments, or values or anything because we've already defined them right up here. So all we're saying is box, you're going to use this. But I do need to find a width. Now this is the width of the div, not the width of the border, which we defined up here. So I'm doing this just so we can see all the stuff that we did here. All right, so we can go take a look. All right, so there it is. Okay, so we applied the mix-in, the inside box. Okay, we defined these already beforehand. Okay, and then this is how you can define multiple things under one property. So border dash width, border dash color, border dash style, and so forth. Now, what's interesting though is I can come over here and I can pass in some arguments here. So I could say 10 pixels, solid, purple. And what that's going to do is it's going to override these. So this one knows it needs to be passed to width. This one knows it needs to be passed over here to style. Then purple knows it needs to be passed over to color. So we can take a look at this now, and it totally changes it. Because remember cascading style sheets, right? This got applied first, but then next line got applied and kind of overrid all of this stuff. Overwrit, whatever that word is. Okay. So you could have this as kind of a default, right? And then if on one class you wanted to change it up a little bit, you could switch it up there and then have this, the default here get applied to everything else, but you can switch it up here. Okay, cool. Moving on. So let's see what's next. So we got that. Okay, we got to talk about the functions now. If we take a look here, this list, it's a GitHub. There's a bunch of different functions. RGB, we're going to be using HSL and HSLA. There's hue, saturation, lightness, grayscale. A lot of these are color based. Actually, kind of most of them. These are getting into more programming, but I think we're okay. But you can take a look at these, but we're mainly going to play around with the color ones. We did an if statement right before. That was last week or the week before. But these are all the different functions that you can do inside of SASS here. So take a look. If you can't get any to work, let me know, or Google around, see what you can do. But let me show you the ones that I'm playing around with here. So I'm going to create some more divs. I'm going to do a class of hue. Copy and paste here because I'm going to throw in a bunch of divs. So we'll have hue, light, lighter, gray. So I'll change this to light, change this to lighter, call this gray. And I'm just going to have text here so we can see what it does. Okay, so now I can come over here, and to get this to work, you kind of have to mess around a little bit with variables. So I'm going to say color, because I love cadet blue. Booyah, that's color 1. The second color here, we'll call it color 2. We'll just make it a boring purple. But I'm setting these variables up so I can actually use them inside of the functions and actually play around. So I'm going to do hue. Okay. And I can say color, and I'm going to use this HSLA. The H stands for hue, saturation, lightness, alpha. So I put in all these values here. So the hue, so HSLA, okay, that's the function. Then I got my parentheses. So I'm just going to take the hue of whatever color is equal to, which is cadet blue. Okay, now it wants to know the lightness. The lightness, I'll say 45%. Okay, then it wants to know, oh, sorry, that was the saturation value. saturation, then it wants to know lightness. So I'll say 60%. And then the alpha is a 0 to 1 value. So 0 is completely invisible, 1 is totally seen. So I'll say 0.6. Why not? Okay, and then I can save that. And also I'm just going to throw in a width of 200 pixels, height of, I don't know, 60. Okay, we'll save that for now. Okay, so you can see the hue. Okay, and then really, if you want to start getting an idea of what exactly is going on, you can just play around with these values. So I can take that saturation, bump it up to 85. Okay, you can see the different changes. So I'm going to be honest, I'm not a huge color guy. Hue, saturation, all that stuff, I don't know a whole lot about it. But if you do, great, because the cool thing here is now you can, with CSS and SASS, you're able to manipulate these values. Okay, and I can take, the alpha, drop it down to 0.1. Okay, that makes it really see-through, so you're not able to see it. Okay, let's bring it back up to like 0.8. Now I can do this with color. I could also do it with background color. Any type of colors that you can use these functions. This one I'll just do SHL, which is hue, saturation, lightness. It doesn't have an alpha value, so I can go back into the hue. I could do color 2 this time. Let's see, saturation, we'll go 20%. Lightness again, well, we'll do like 80 this time. Okay, and we don't put in an alpha value because we're not using it. Okay, so now we get this kind of background color of the div. All right, so you're able to mess around with these functions. Let's throw in some other ones. We have light and lighter, so we'll do that. So light, lighter. So I'm just going to say color lighten. That's the function. And I'm going to lighten it with the color of cadet blue, and I'll lighten it 20%. We'll do the same thing here. Color lighten with color 1, and we'll do 60%. So we can take a look at this now. So you can see the 20%, right, doesn't make it as light. And then, of course, as you make it lighter, it's going to get harder to see. And we can come here and take a look at the CSS and see what it's doing. When we threw in those SASS values, this is just, it just comes up with these colors, right? So it does whatever it needs to do in the background. It grabs this hex value and it somehow associates that with the 20% light or the 60% light that we applied. And then there's lighter white, right? Interesting crap there. Okay, let's see. Do gray now. So we'll mess around with that div. So gray. Color, we'll just use cadet blue again. We'll give it a height of, I don't know, just stick with this, I guess 60 pixels, width 200. We'll do background color, but this time we're going to do grayscale. And then we're going to use invert. So it's going to take the inverted value of cadet blue. And again, I'm not a color theory person, so I couldn't really tell you what that is. But we'll take the inverted color of cadet blue, and then we'll grayscale it. It runs this one first, and then it runs this one. That's just how these functions work. So here, it ran all of these first, and then it was able to know what that is. So we can save it, come over here, refresh. Okay, there's the grayscale. Okay, and there's the cadet blue color. Let's see, I'm not sure if we can just do invert. Didn't play around with that. Save that. Yeah, that's kind of cool. So that's the inverted color of cadet blue. So again, I mean, all this stuff. Is invert in there? Yeah, there it is. So inverts there returns the inverse of a color. Complement returns the complement of a color. So it's kind of cool where you can just use these functions to start getting these different color values and such. Did I spell that wrong? Complement. Complement. Yeah, maybe I did. I don't know. Looks fine to me. Or maybe that is the invert. I don't know. Inverse and complement, same thing. I don't know. Like I said, not a color theory type guy. It's really weird. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, there they are. Take a look at them. You need to use, what, 4 of them, I think? Yeah, 4. Okay, so let's talk about importing now. So, you know in HTML you can embed multiple style sheets. I could throw in a bunch of links. But I mean, let's say I had a bunch of variables that were going to be the same on all of these different CSS pages and such. Well, I can set things up on external SASS pages and embed them or import them into other pages. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go File, New, and I'm going to save this one out. I'm going to call this import.scss. Throw it in there. Okay. Throw this down here. So in here, I'm just going to, I don't know, just going to define a bunch of variables. So I'll say height is going to be, I have no idea, 300 pixels. We'll say width is going to be 80%. I don't want width though, I'll just go W. Color will be blue for now. Doesn't really matter. We'll say F is going to be kind of our font, so we'll just say Arial here. And then the border is always going to be, well, solid. So what I've done is I've just defined a bunch of variables inside of SASS here. Now, if I come back to my other SASS file, well, I couldn't use this. If I came down here and I'm going to start styling, throw in another div here, we'll give it a class of import. We'll say I am styled using external styles. Or I don't know. Something like that. I have been styled using external. I'll say using an external SASS file. Okay. So if I were to come in here and say import, and then I'm going to say color, I want to be C, width, I want to be W. Well, that's not going to work, right? Because C and W have not been defined anywhere. But on this other file, they have. C is blue, W is 80%. So if I want to define all of my things on like some other file and then use this to style some other file, I can do that. And I do that with an import statement. So I can come up here to the top. Doesn't really matter where you import it, you just need to make sure you import it before you use it. So if I'm using the C variable here and I import it down here, it's not going to work because it's going to try to use the C variable, but that hasn't been imported yet. So I think it's a good idea to just import it up here. So I'm going to say import, and I'm going to import import.scss. Okay. And there we go. So it's blue, and I can start using the other ones. All right, I have height, width, color, font, and so forth. So I did color, width, we can do height is going to be height, border is going to be the B, font family, Fong, font family is F, I think that's it, 5 of them, right? 3, 5, yep, got it. So save these out, come back, refresh, boom, there's the border. Okay, it's 80% wide. Arial's been applied. We got the color of blue and so forth. So hopefully you can see how this could be pretty powerful. Is you can just set up all your variables or set up whatever you want on these external these external style sheets, and then you can come over here and just import them. So if you have like 15 different style sheets that use this kind of master one here, well, you just change a value here and you can update your whole site pretty quickly. Okay, now that brings us to, well, wait a minute, we're not up here, right, where we're linking our CSS. What the heck's going on? Because we don't have 2 different style sheets. Well, that's kind of the cool thing that's going on here is, yeah, it'll import it. When it imports it, it'll automatically, when it compiles it, it'll put all of these styles from here and here, it puts them all into one. So we can look here, we can come down here to import, and we can see that it did it all for us, even though this was part of an external SASS file. So that's kind of cool. So when you compile it in the end, it all just gets thrown into this one CSS file, which brings us to the last part. Okay, you need to import at least one external SASS file. Now, once you're done, you need to compile it into nested, expanded, compact, and compressed. Okay, and I'll show you the differences here. So right now, the default is nested. So congratulations, you've already done it. This is your nested file. So when you export, this is nested. Okay, you can see what it does. It puts the curly brackets kind of like this. It's still pretty readable. It's not too hard to read. The only thing I don't like is I usually like my curly brackets to be down here, but nested doesn't do that. One thing that we'll want to do here is I'm going to throw in some comments, because it's important to see how this works. Okay, so with nested, you can see that I made a comment with slash asterisk and then I made a comment with slash slash. With nested, when it compiles it, it keeps everything that's slash asterisk, asterisk slash, but it doesn't keep any comments that are slash slash, which is interesting. So if you're having really important comments when you're compiling, make sure that you're not using slash slash, because those won't show up in the CSS file. Okay, so that's nested. Now we're going to hop over here and I'm going to stop watching this. So Control C to stop it. Do I want to terminate? Yes. So I hit Y and I hit enter. Okay, and this is where we're going to come back here. We're going to use this command here. So we're going to run the update so it only updates it once and it only compiles once. It's not watching. So what we're going to do is SASS dash dash update. So the file name is css.scss. Okay, and I want to turn this into another file. So that's why I'm doing this colon here. Because I already have my nested one. This one's basically nested. This is the nested export. I want the other ones. Okay, and so to do that, we can come down here and take a look. So we have to do a dash dash style, and then it'll tell us what we want to do here. So we're updating, let's go back there, we're updating css.scss, right? So update css.scss, and we want to call this one, I'm going to call it expanded.css. Okay, and then I have to say what style. So dash dash style expanded. Okay, so SASS space dash dash update css.scss, and we're going to create a new file, and we're going to call it expanded.css. And the style that we're going to compile this is using the expanded. So hit enter. Okay, so it wrote expanded.css, and it gave me the map file. Now, I don't know if you can do this in Macs, but in Windows, you can just press up on the keyboard, and it'll put in everything you just put in, the up key, the little up arrow key. It'll put in everything you just stuck in there on the last command line. So now I can come over here, and I can do the other ones. So I'm going to update css.scss again, but this time I'm going to call it compact.css because it's the other way. And I'm not doing the style of expanded, I'm doing the style of compact. Okay, I hit enter, there we go. Then I'm going to do the last one. So this style is going to be compressed, and I will call this compressed.css. So I want you to just have the experience of exporting and compiling these different types of CSS files. Now, your page isn't going to change at all. It's just the formatting of the CSS that changes, and you'll see that in a minute. So I'll hit enter. Okay, so there we go. Now I'm going to have a bunch of junk in here now. So this is the nested one. That's the compressed one. That's the compact one. And that's the expanded. So let's take a look at these. I'm going to open all of these in brackets so we can take a look at the differences. Okay, so we saw, let's move this over. So we saw nested, right? Puts the bracket there. It only shows the slash asterisk comment, not the dash dash slash slash whatever. Okay, here's expanded. Not a lot of difference, really. Expanded's supposed to be kind of the most human-friendly way to view the CSS. You can still see it still gets rid of the slash slash comment, but really, like, the main difference is just the curly bracket, right? I said a few minutes ago that I like the curly bracket down here. Well, that's kind of what expanded does. Just expands it out all the way, makes it's basically the easiest on the eyes. Okay. Now compact takes every style and puts it on one line. And again, it only kept the one comment. So compact takes the container style and it's all on one line. So if I were to kind of do this, you can see that it's all on one line. But then it leaves a space and then the next. So this one's not too hard to read either. But every style, every class, everything that you do, it's on its own line. Okay, and same with the curly brackets. Okay, now compressed is kind of, we're starting to get into way hard to read. So, you may go, well, why the heck would I want this one? Well, this saves on space, file size. When you get rid of all this white space and all these spaces and line breaks and all that, it's going to make your file smaller. I don't know if we'll really be able to see it here. Yeah, not really. We don't have enough text in here to really take a look. But if I could do like expanded at 657 bytes, okay, if I go to compressed, 461. So the other one was 657, something like that. And the compressed one, you know, it's a little less than half the size, right? So I saved maybe about a third of the file size there, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, right? But if you have tons of people coming to your site, that's going to save you a lot on bandwidth. Like hundreds of thousands of hits. Well, you times that little file size that we, you know, a little bit of bytes here that we save, you times that by 100,000 hits, and okay, you're doing pretty good actually. So compressed really isn't for development. This is more just like when it's done and you're ready to deploy your website. Okay, then you would compress the CSS, you get it compressed, and then you throw it up on your host. Okay, so to turn those in, upload your nested one. Okay, your expanded, your compressed, your compact. Make sure you upload those all to your server. You can give me the direct links to them, or you know, when you're turning it in, you can attach it to your post. I really don't care. It doesn't matter to me. Okay, so that's it, guys. You should have everything you need to finish this up. Any questions, let me know. But yeah, you should be on your way. So good luck, and we'll talk to you later.